afternoon, Namibia and the world, and welcome to a session here at the Government Information Center. It is the 9th of March. The year is definitely running off with us. This afternoon, we are looking at a very important topic that keeps hitting our country when we are experiencing the blessings of rains, and that is floods. And we in the studio, we do have two ladies that are going to be assisting us in understanding what our communities in these flood-prone areas have gone through and what they continue to go through. We have Ms. Helen Likando. She is the Director for Disaster Risk Management in the Office of the Prime Minister. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
We also have Ms. Pauline Mufeti. She is the Deputy Director for Hydrology from the National Hydrological Services in the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm glad to be here. Good afternoon, viewers.
On the line virtually, we have Honorable Elia Irimari. He is the Regional Governor for the Oshana region. Good afternoon, Honorable.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, and good afternoon.
We are glad you could join us, Honorable.
Thank you very much. I'm also glad to be here, to be with you.
Well, mid-January 2023, Namibia received flood rains locally known as Efunja. These poured in from Angola. The flood waters extended over a vast area of our northern regions, affecting mainly the Oshana and Ohangwena regions. In response to these floods, Cabinet approved an amount of about 72 million to fund flood relief programs through the Office of the Prime Minister. But first, we want to understand with regards to the water itself, and this we would like to ask from Ms. Mufeti. What was the water influx rate experienced this year in comparison to previous years?
Thank you, Desiree. Yes, as you have alluded, the north central part of the country received heavy rains during actually the rain started beginning of January, and the flood waters occurred in the eastern part of the northern, of the south. There was heavy rains in the eastern part of the Kuvelai catchment, eastern southern part of the Kuvelai catchment, and also the northeastern part of the Kuvelai catchment. And these floods, they caused a lot of inundation, but in comparison with the previous years, for example, the 2011 floods, which were the highest in living memory, the rainfall occurred in the entire upper part of the Kuvelai catchment in Namibia, in Angola, and also in Namibia. That's why there was a lot of inundation, and a lot of people were affected by the floods.
Okay. We move on to Governor Irimari. We would like to find out then from you, to what extent were the citizens of your region affected, and were there any fatalities recorded? Were there any major infrastructural damages? If any, just give us a few examples.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity you have accorded me to answer this question. Yes, based on the question, first of all, I need to note that the floods have subsidized, and we are mostly out of danger, and things are back to normal.
Okay.
Yes, I need to report to you that 426 people have been affected in the region, and whereby out of these numbers, 8 are more especially from 6 communities 6 community or constituency were affected. In the Diva, it was Katana, or Shakati West, and on Dangwa River and Okaku, part of the Diva constituency have been affected. Unfortunately, the flood has also costed us, three life, due to drowning. Because this was one of the sad situations we've encountered in the area. And also, yes, yeah, yeah. In fact, that's what they basically happened to the community in Canada.
Okay. I think we missed it there. Did you say that there were a few fatalities due to drowning that were recorded?
Yeah, them. 3 of them were reported as a
Okay.
result of drowning.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Did you experience any infrastructural damage, major infrastructural damage?
Not necessary to say that damage, more especially referring to communities, to households. There was not that much of damage, like the houses in wash away. No. But the only one which we are still is the roads, which were these gravel roads in four constituencies. They were, washed away by the flood waters.
Okay.
This is, one of the infrastructure as I mentioned that they have been washed away. More especially our crossing points, to clinic and also to school have been affected, which has led to some, more especially vehicles or roads to use other alternative roads to destinations. But the commonly used road transportation system, most of them have been, washed away by the flood. And as we are talking now, we are busy with the road authorities, to ensure that, all these roads are back to normality and be used again.
Okay, okay. That is good to hear that work is being done to try and restore some bit of normalcy. It will take time, but at least something is being done. We come to you, Ms. Likanda, and we would like to find out at a national level, what are some of the measures that government has put in place to assist the affected communities?
Thank you very much. As you are aware that in responding to disasters, it requires actually a multi-sectoral approach. At the national level, the National Disaster Risk Management Committee met, and different sectors were then required to identify the needs and the requirements based on the needs on the ground. Each sector was able to identify, we are going to, for example, Ministry of Health, we will do psychosocial support, we'll create awareness in terms of possible outbreak of communicable diseases and so on. So from onset, both the regional government, we were able to activate the flood contingency plans. That then entailed different responsibilities of sectors, and we were able to provide different need requirements to the affected communities, ranging from temporal shelter, food, and water provisions through tanking services and many others that were provided to the affected communities in different camps. Of course, relocation camps were identified and established by the regional councils, and people, those who were severely affected, were evacuated and they were relocated to these camps, both in Ohangwena region as well as Oshana region. Thank you.
Okay. I think we go back to the governor here, and you spoke earlier on about school children being affected by the roads. But we do know that it's not just the accessing of the schools, but it is the fact that they could not necessarily continue the process of teaching, and a lot of valuable time was lost. So, Governor Erimari, we would like to find out what are some of the measures being implemented in order to make up for this lost time?
Yes, thank you very much. Schools have been affected as a result of flash, flash, flash flood which we have experienced, and others have been temporarily closed because of measure, because others, who are lower primary learners, because we're just around, but the others were just affected because the water, was so heavy. Now, given what transpired, the region will work around the clock. All these learners have been affected by but of course, they do catch up with the others. Now they have prepared other alternatives, classroom, just so that, they can, be compensated on the time they've lost. And also the time, as we are talking right now, others are still attending classes, more especially on Saturday, as to catch the lost time.
Okay.
So, by the end of the term, definitely, they will have to be empowered with the others, with all those whose schools has not been disrupted as a result of the flood. So this is one of the measures the Education Directorate in the region has embarked upon to ensure that the Namibian learners are afforded and given the education they deserve to have.
Okay. No, definitely. I think in a case like that, we do have to applaud the teachers and the learners who are honestly making those efforts to try and make sure that they do catch up to the rest of the nation. Ms. Mufeti, we would like to find out from you, are you aware, of any damages that were recorded towards the agricultural sector? And how is the ministry dealing with that, if any were recorded?
Yeah, surely when floods inundate areas, it also inundate agricultural fields, and whereby crops are submerged, and also livestock in terms of grazing areas also get inundated, and then there is little left for grazing for the animals.
Okay. Are there any mitigating efforts from the ministry side, maybe to assist the farmers?
Yes, those are normally dealt through the multi-hazard contingency plans in terms of disaster response. So the ministry works together with the Office of the Prime Minister, Disaster Risk Management, and also the regional units to respond to these issues.
Okay. As we always say here at the Government Information Center, we have conversations, and we always welcome your input and your 2 cents, your questions, if you have anything that you want to be cleared for you. So please do join us here in the studio. We are streaming live from our social media platforms, so you can drop us a comment there. On YouTube, you can find us at MICT Namibia. That's our handle on YouTube, MICT Namibia. On Facebook, you can find us at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. That's on Facebook. Our number here in the studio is also working, finally. So you can also give us a call in the studio. And 061 is the area code 400-397. 400-397. That is how you can contact us telephonically. So while we wait for you to join our conversation, I continue then with Ms. Likando. And I'd like to find out from you, are there any forms of subsidization offered to the affected communities to assist them during and after the flood period?
What happened immediately after the floods in January is that a rapid assessment was carried out to determine who is affected and how. And that revealed the number of people who were severely affected to an extent that they required evacuation, and then they were relocated. So then that rapid assessment recommended measures such as identification of relocation camps, provision of temporary shelters in the form of tents, provision of food, water, sanitation, and so on. So what needs to happen now, the plans are to carry out an impact assessment that will then determine to what extent have this flood impacted the affected communities in terms of their livelihood. This will be supplemented by the crop assessment that is usually carried out and co-led by the Ministry of Agriculture, of course, including other stakeholders. And that, again, will be supplemented by what the Office of the Prime Minister usually conducts and coordinates the annual vulnerability assessments. All these assessments are aimed at determining the extent of vulnerability of communities that have been affected by flood. So these assessments will then make tangible recommendations in terms of what needs to be done, medium to long-term measures as well as long-term measures in assisting the affected communities to recover from the impact of these floods and be able to bounce back. So any recommendations of what needs to be done in terms of further assistance will be recommended by this assessment. But currently, since the beginning of the floods, the affected communities have been given food, they have been given shelter, they have been given ablution facilities in terms of sanitation, they have been given mosquito nets, water purification tablets, psychosocial support, and. So after the other assessments that will follow, then it will be determined whether such assistance continues from now up to the next harvest season, or something else, subsidy or anything that will be found necessary or suitable to assist the communities really to bounce back.
Okay. Ms. Mufeti, in what ways is the ministry utilizing technology for early flood detection in an effort to decrease and or prevent effects of floods in these flood-prone areas?
The ministry, through the hydrological services, utilize, in terms of now, technology, earth-based observation data, like satellite information, to monitor rainfall development in catchments. And also, we are having a network of real-time monitoring stations whereby they pick up the floods and then we can go on the website when we are monitoring to see how the flood how the water is coming at the station and how the flood level is progressing. And we have also partnered with international organizations because we want to move in the area of impact-based early warning and forecasting, such as Google flood forecasting, and we have also developed a Namibia flood and drought monitor that together with the University of Princeton, it uses models and all available Earth observation data and real-time data to forecast, and then we can see what to expect. But there are a lot of available products online which we also use to monitor rainfall developments and also flood inundation that have been developed internationally, but the challenge is that sometimes they are coarse, and they need to be downscaled to the Namibian national situation, country situation.
Okay, okay. Do you maybe have any projects to work with the local higher institutions to maybe do something like what you were referring to scale it down or to be more national or Namibian specific?
Yes, the ministry developed with a Namibia water sector support program, whereby together with the universities, the two universities, it came up with a capacity building program of master's students. And these master's students, their research is based on one component of integrated flood and drought management implementation. Their research is based on activities that are outlined in that component, let's say early warning or mapping flood risk or water quality issues during flood, or how to harvest flood waters, and by that the program is tailor-made to the country situation, and it's our young people who are in this program and who are solving the country's problems.
Ms. Likando, I would like to then find out from you, because earlier on you spoke about the relocation of community members during the flood period. Now, as devastating as floods are, and they have been very persistent in the north and northeastern areas of Namibia for quite some time, are there any plans for the permanent relocation of communities residing in these flood plains to higher grounds?
I think the Honorable Governor will be in a position to answer that, because the regional government is responsible for allocation of land to communities through the land board.
Okay.
National government does not really interfere in that process.
Okay.
But however, what government does is to create awareness to the communities when warnings through monitoring, when forecast is done, warnings are issued, and communities are encouraged to move to higher ground on a permanent basis. Others, those with resources, are able to do embankment of their homesteads, houses where they stay, so that this water then is rechanneled, it does not affect them. So there are different mechanisms that people can employ. Those without resources can then are encouraged to move permanently to higher ground, because it's costly to be moving them annually to relocation camps, feeding them, and then they go back. So the process is ongoing of encouraging those that are affected to move permanently to higher ground. But again, the regional councils through the land board are responsible for provision or location of providing land to the communities.
Okay. I think Governor Irimari, I would like you to please come in there and maybe just highlight to us whether there are any such projects going on or plans in the near future for permanent relocation.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes, it has always been on our planning of the future, year in, year out, especially, the affected areas, whereby, they have to, design or carry out, areas, to ease the affected community in times of flooding. For example, Shakati has created the now settlement area. It's a semi-informal area with all the needed services. Whereby, needed services, for example, and electricities. In fact, most of the community who are located in our settlement area, this where the community has always been affected, heavily affected by the flood which arose in the headland of Shakati. So as we are talking right now, effort has been done. And also again, efforts are still being sought by arms, whereby, because this flood was so tricky that where area it has never been flooding, this area has received enough water, which has awakened people that, even where people, set up the settlement area, they are permanent houses. So they are in that line, of where a Funja goes through. So as we are talking, there is an assessment carried out by the respective town council, those who have, experienced that, so that, they can come up with, mitigating measures, so that, similar not be exposed in the nature. And this is basically the area in the Diva constituency, which was heavily inundated with this waters, and also part of Shakati West and Tanarea. Yeah, those are the area which has been affected. So as we are talking, assessments are there. Because you first need to assess, see how what the impact and so on, we need to be able to come up with a well designed, so that we can no longer repeat the same thing again. And the other factors with regard to the Efunja following Efunja flooding is that uh, this, this flood has certain area, a certain belt that has not been flooded for the past either 20 years and 10 years. So then people, thought, that it will never happen, or it will never, cause flood water. So they went to settle houses there, in the waterway. So this is the awareness we have to be part of the assessment, so that, time subsidized, of course, of course, flood definitely subsidized, so that, this information can be shared among those communities.
Okay, okay. Ms. Likanda, we're back to you, and this basically speaks to coordination, because the OPM is known to, be the main coordinator for national relief activities. Which stakeholders do you liaise or work with to coordinate national responses to disasters? And do these include national organizations? International, pardon me.
As I have alluded to earlier, that any disaster response calls for a multi-stakeholder approach. Apart from the existing institutional bodies, such as the National Disaster Risk Management Committees, the Regional Disaster Risk Management Committees, response to any disaster, let's talk about floods now, is actually clustered into different sectors. You have, for example, early warning, public awareness, and advocacy being led by the Ministry of Information Communication Technology. A good example of that is, this is why this center was established during COVID, in order to create awareness, to disseminate information. So MICT is the co-lead for that sector. Okay. But then you have, it's the lead. You have co-lead institutions, and you have other institutions that support and have different roles that they play within that sector. Of course, that includes state-owned enterprises, development partners, private sector, youth, women, and everybody. Yeah. Their representatives actually serve in those committees. So another one is the area of camp coordination and camp management, whereby the lead institution there is regional councils and local authorities, in case the flood takes place in a local authority area, the local authority is able to lead in identifying relocation camps, setting up tents, and managing the relocation camps. The water and sanitation and hygiene is led by the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, and the list goes on.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Governor, I'm back with you, and I would then like to look at the approved funds that we earlier on alluded to, that Cabinet approved to the amount of about 72 million. How in your region was this utilized? Were there some identified relief programs? And kindly just give us an update on the implementation and current status of these programs, if any exist.
Yes, thank you very much. I just have to commend the government for the budgeting position, the impact of the flood, and also the implementation process. I tell you that, it has already started in our region. And, because of the Office of the Prime Minister have continued to provide basic necessities to affected communities yes, by the flood. And because as we are talking, the Office of the Prime Minister has provided food stuff, which has already been distributed to affected families at the relocation centers of still at the relocation center, so they provided all the necessary amenities as we are talking. And we said, we are so grateful that close to 50 mattresses have been provided under mosquito net, for these malarias. Has also been provided to the relocated family members at in the center of Shakati, and also even because not the private area is subsidized. So all these families are still being supported with the assistance of the funds provided from the Office of the Prime Minister. And also, also one thing I have to also have to probably, not probably, but to thank the bottom of our region, the donation done by Office of the President has contributed quite immensely to our flood activities, and also, institutions like the Namibia, the Road Fund administrations, and all maize based in China have done extremely very well in terms of assisting. And also to just confirm that I've been myself on the ground, and I've seen how costly is the entire exercise, especially ensuring, the safety and the nutritional value of people who are residing at this relocation center. It's not an easy and low cost exercise. It really requires a human being, he or she has to receive these services, and so on, and water and electricity has to be paid for, security has to be paid for, the maintenance of those tents, the maintenance of those sanitation facilities, they must be detergent, to ensure that they are clean and so on. And also, it's such a highly complex operation.
Okay. You are reminded that you can join us. You can drop us a question on our social media platforms. You are very much welcome to also just give us your opinion. You can also actually give us your experience if you were found, or you found yourself, pardon me, in these areas when these floods were taking place. Our social media platforms, you can find us on our YouTube platform, and our handle there is MICT Namibia. MICT Namibia, that's our YouTube handle. On Facebook, you can find us at Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, Republic of Namibia. You can call us in the studio 061 400 400-397. 400-397 is the number in the studio. I would like to actually just come back to an earlier point that was alluded to by Ms. Mufeti, but I would like to start off asking this question from Ms. Lekando first, before we can get Ms. Mufeti's input. Namibia is classified as a semi-arid country with below average rain. Now, despite the damages that comes with the flood waters, they could, in a way, be seen as a blessing in disguise. But we want to now find out, are there any water harvesting projects along these known flood channels? If not, are there any plans towards such projects? Ms. Lekanda?
Thank you. I'll touch on the issue of what has been done so far. There are structural and non-structural measures to dealing with floods. And I'll start with the non-structural measures. That calls for legislation, policies and plans, trainings and public awareness, institutional arrangements, the flood warning systems, forecasting and warning issuances, evacuation and shelter management, flood plan zonings, changes in cropping patterns, local disaster action plans, disaster preparedness and contingency plans. Often there is this question as to what has government done so far. There's floods every after 10 years, and it seems we keep doing the same things over and over. So these are the non-structural measures that can be employed to reduce the impact of floods. And I can tell you that most of the items that I have just given you now are in place, from legislation to local disaster action plans, contingency plans, and so on. I think where government needs to improve, the area where we need to improve is on the non-structural measures, which includes storage reservoirs and basin restrictive overflows, the dams, the dikes, the flood embankments, and detention basins, retention ponds, and so on. In that area, we need to improve, but this is a technical area that requires a lot of study before you embark on. Because if you just, jump and you implement without carrying out environmental impact assessment, proper study, they can have severe impact, even more than what we are handling now. This is why the Ministry of Agriculture is undertaken or is going through taking studies to find out what can be done. But my colleague here will share more light towards the water harvesting techniques that the Ministry of Agriculture are putting in place.
Okay. Ms. Mufeti?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, government have been doing flood water harvesting ever since. For example, dam construction. The dams are used to harvest flood waters. And one thing we need to know is that Namibia have 5, I think, flood-prone areas, and which is the Kuvelai, which now it's everyone mostly is talking about now, and we are having the Zambezi, and the eastern Zambezi floodplains, the Kavango river and its banks, the Kunene, it also gets flooded, and also the Orange River, whereby currently now we a station located in South Africa last week recorded upstream 500 kilometers at Blowpits, recorded 8.8 meters. Now that flood wave have passed. Currently the level there is 3 meters. That water is traveling downstream. So our irrigation schemes on the Orange, the town of Oranjemund, Sendelingstreef, Noordoever, they need to be on alert. Okay. In terms now of flood water harvesting, that's a structural intervention measure, whereby, let's say, for example, for the Kuvelai, those channels, one need to come up with studies on how to deepen and divert some of the channels to avoid flooding, let's say, to the town of Oshakati or Ongwediva, and then harvest those waters for the time of drought. And government have also been rehabilitating earth dams, constructing and rehabilitating earth dams. Currently, the ministry have a flood water harvesting concept. It had to be implemented, but then COVID came, but now it's going to be revised, and government have also budgeted for flood water harvesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Plans, and the future looks like it's working hard to make sure that we mitigate some of these things. As you alluded to earlier on, Ms. Likando, people keep asking, we keep experiencing, but government seemingly keeps doing the same thing. I guess the same thing can have different tentacles in the efforts. Governor Irimari, I come back to you. The floods have passed, and surely people are trying to restore their lives to normal. We want to find out from you, as you said earlier, actually, also, you've been on the ground. We want to find out what are some of the mitigating efforts that the community members themselves have embarked on, and how is your good office, along with other stakeholders, meeting them halfway in these efforts?
Yes, thank you for the question. In fact, there are a variety of mitigating factors. I need to mention it. One of the mitigating factors is a soft infrastructure setup, which is a call center, which has been handling and managing all these issues related to this flash flood, and also other mitigating factors, with regard to the future water flows or floods. In fact, what we are also doing is that, as a region, we have embarked upon, as the director has just mentioned, the director Mufete has just mentioned that, there are mitigating factors to establish or rehabilitate, current earth dams, which have been left in a very deplorable situation. They've been rehabilitated as we are talking now. Quite a number of them in the region have been rehabilitated. Just unfortunately, I don't have the data for now. Then also, we've taken a purposeful resolutions, to conserve waters in the region, for to us, and also lessen the impact of the water flows when the flood is so higher and heavy. So, these are some of the mitigating factors we are trying to do. And probably, a question might probably, be coming from you. Why are you not constructing, massive earth dams? The question is very simple, just that the area topographical feature is not really need or be able to fit a highly intensive micro type of dam infrastructure for now. It clearly need an intensive studies and intensive designs to be able to, and also it also has the ecological factors again. Once you put up a highly massive, as part of a mitigation. So when the flow just got into one area, if you put up such a massive dams, definitely it will also affect the ecological setup of the entire Kuvelai, which also feeds Etosha and also the Oshanas being fed, and that Oshana, they rely on, they are a source of income to our community in terms of fishing and also some grass and also some other reddish added by the flood. So what you are saying is that the mitigating factor, the only one is putting up conservation, small holding water dams, and also rehabilitation of the other dams, and also towns have invested in the underground infrastructure to ensure that once the water reach the towns, they go undergroundly, and once the normal work or services are continuing without seeing any flood water in the town. So, they've already started, and there are towns who have already embarked upon such a project some years back, 10 years ago, and others are also, planning, to do the similar thing once resources are available.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable. We are at a point where our session has come to an end or is coming to an end. But before I let our panelists go, I'd just like to ask from them and their institutions, what are some of pieces of advice that you can give to the communities that are continuously having to experience these effects of flood waters? We can start with you, Ms. Mufeti.
Okay, yeah. Namibia climate is very variable and unpredictable. And sometimes the floods and drought disasters happen simultaneously. A good example is, let's say, the Kuvelai. Currently, it was the eastern part of the Kuvelai catchment that received heavy rains and then got flooded, but also the water moved a bit to the central Kuvelai system. The western part of the Kuvelai, both in Angola, then did not receive heavy rains. But now we are still in the peak of the rainy season. And the forecast is general forecast with global models. It's still saying that we should expect high rains until the end of the rainy season. And the past floods, they used to occur, for example, the 2011 disaster floods now, they occurred they started around this time, March. In fact, they started, but they were in February, but then it was very low, and then they leveled off. Then they picked up again because there were heavy rains in the upstream catchment around March and April. That's when the biggest inundation took place. So currently, we should not relax, actually. The situation requires very close monitoring in all the flood-prone areas. For example, the Zambezi already, the water is already pushing into the floodplains, and upstream in Zambia and Angola, both for the Kuvelai and the Zambezi, it has been raining heavily. We don't know what can come out of this situation. And the eastern part of the Kuvelai catchment, the situation is already saturated. And yeah, so the situation requires close monitoring. And as climate change is stating, is that these floods, in terms of frequency and drought, frequency and intensity, they are going to increase. And we are called to invest in early warning. And that requires a multi-sectoral approach. Stakeholders, our citizens, they need to be involved in terms of maybe teaching them how to read levels and understand that if it means the level is here, it means run, relocate, move to higher ground. The business sectors, they are heavily affected by floods, especially on the ones who have their businesses, lodges at the riverbanks. People are left when it's flooded, people lose their jobs because the businesses have to close down. So it requires everybody, government cannot do it alone anymore. Everybody must come on board to help with this, with climate-related disasters. And communities are urged, especially those who stay in flood-prone areas, who knows that they are always affected. For example, in the Zambezi, already they should start thinking of moving, relocating to higher ground together with their animals. And also just a cautionary message is that floodwaters are dangerous. And the levels might look very low, but it's moving very fast, and underneath you don't know what's happening. So sometimes people take chances in terms of crossing floodwaters, and sometimes it's just better to avoid doing that. So, but there are many, also we continue sending out our bulletins, and we have a very good relation with the media, and also our disaster people, we send them the information, and from the ministry side, we'll continue doing that, updating the nation in terms of how the flooding situation is evolving during this rainy season.
Okay. Ms. Lakando, quick words?
I'll close with allow me to close with this concern of the 72 million budget. Everybody wants to know how it will be spent and how the money will be divided into regions and sectors and so on. The 72 million budget was availed through the National Disaster Fund. We have already started spending. All the food items and measures that we have been rolling out to the people that are relocated both in Ohangwena region and Oshana region is coming from that budget. But this budget is not only limited to assist people that are in the relocation camp. The rapid assessment has indicated that most of the affected communities' fields have been submerged, and we therefore know that the crop prospect will be affected as a result of the floods. So these communities will then require assistance in terms of food provision, including water, from now until the next harvest season, which will be May next year, 2024. So part of that budget will be used in providing this assistance to affected communities, not only those in the relocation camps. Many who were not relocated, their fields were affected. So they will still be identified and they will be assisted from now until the next harvest season, which is May 2024.
Okay. Governor, quickly, as we have about a minute left, your closing remarks?
Yes, my last remark is as follows. Those of us who has built our houses where the flood water system has been flowing or still moving today, they ought to find alternative way, by relocating, or those with, more especially with non-permanent structures, to build the houses on the upper ground, so that we can avoid the same situations of repeating the same scenario year in and year out. That is all my last word to you.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Yes.
Honorable Irimari, for making the time to be with us. Just to give us a highlight of what it is the region has gone through, what is happening. Thank you very much as well to our panelists in the studio. We appreciate your time. And with that, we say a goodbye to you, but please do join us on Monday for another edition here at the Government Information Center. From myself, Desire Kahiha, and my production crew, it's bye-bye.